Alright, this is going to be my first Fusion tutorial on how to do basic parts for the elective. It's like the 5th time I've done this because I keep forgetting that I've customized everything to make it easier for me, and I'm not used to the way it looks default. So first things first, you need a mouse. If you don't have a mouse, this is going to be pretty horrible, but for now it should be okay. When you open up Fusion for the first time, you'll see something like this, or maybe the data panel's open. Like this. To open it, it's just top left, and this is basically like your file explorer within Fusion. Because everything's cloud-based, you don't have to worry about saving things on the school laptop. So I'm going to do everything in the tutorial project. You won't have this. Yours will probably just have like admin project right here, default, recent data. All you want to do is press new project, and then you'll title it what you want, and then you'll just double click and base everything out of here. And that'll be your folder that you're working in, just to keep things organized. It's nice to be organized with this stuff because it's a lot. So I'm going to open up my tutorial bin here, and first things first, you want to make sure your document settings are in inches. By default, it's going to be millimeters. So to change that, you want to click on this arrow here that says document settings down, and you want to hover over this and then click, and you want to go down to inches and press set as default. After you've done that, now we're working with inches. The only reason you'd need millimeters is to save something as an STL, which I guess it's not here because I don't have anything, but STL is what you use for 3D printing stuff. Like, I'm just gonna real quick, just for reference, you don't have to do what I just did, but if we right click here, now we can save as STL, and that you put into a slicer so that you can 3D print it out, but that needs to be in millimeters. We'll do all that stuff later, but for now I'm going to show you the mouse movements. So I have a cube in the center here. If you paused and followed along like I did, then I guess it's easier to see, but when you hold down the middle mouse button, you can pan like this. And if you hold it down I'll repeat that. If you hold down the middle mouse button and press Control at the same time, you'll be able to orbit like this. And zoom in, zoom out. And this is important for navigating around the part, because chances are we're going to have to do a hydro flask or something big eventually, and then you're going to have a bunch of different sketches, some fillets going on here, maybe a shell or two, and then things get complicated. But for right now, we're just going to worry about extruding the 2 different types and just basic shapes, and then maybe holes. So to create a sketch that's a 2-dimensional object that we can later extrude out, we're going to go here, press create sketch, and you'll see these 3 planes. I always work off the top plane, so to ensure I'm there, I go to this top right cube and press top plane, and then I'm going to click here. And now this is what we have working with. We're working off the top plane, and your toolbar, will look a little bit different than mine, because I customized mine to make it easier for me. You'll probably have these 3 and then these 2, I'm guessing. But everything is under this Create tab. If you click on it and then hover over it, if I were you, I would pin the center rectangle right now because you use it a ton. So you just hover over it, 3 dots, left click, pin to toolbar, and that's this one right here. Circles, I only really use the default one. I use constraints for everything else to define it the way it is. And then a 3-point arc is also pretty nice. I don't know if we'll have to use that as much necessarily, but it's good for arcing things, And then polygon, that's like octagons, a bunch of things that have like 10 sizes, 10 sides, geez. I've filmed this like 5 times already. And then an ellipse, I don't ever use these. Slot, a bunch of stuff basically, okay? There's even a text thing in here if you want to make a dumb thing in a cube. It just says Genius Award, and it's just that and a brick, you could do that. But right now we're just gonna extrude out shapes. So 2-point rectangle is right here. I'm gonna click on it once, make sure it's selected by seeing that it's blue. Then we're gonna click on this origin, and then you'll see if we click once and then drag it out with our mouse, not holding it, you can see that numbers appear. And what we want to do now is input the values that we want. So using my keyboard, I'm going to press 2, tab 2. I'm really zoomed in, so that looks big. And then I'm going to press enter. And now we have our 2 by 2 inch cube. This is engineering based stuff, so everything is a 1-to-1 scale. So if you print this out, it will be 2 inches by 2 inches, which is important later on because you don't want to sit there and scale everything, because that wouldn't be great. Now to make this a 3D object, we're going to go under solid and then press extrude right here. If you didn't click outside of it, it will automatically be like this, but if yours looks like this and you don't see an arrow, then no problem, just click here and then you'll see the arrow. Now we're going to make this a cube, so I'm going to press 2, and there we go, there's our cube. You can see that the origin isn't at the center of this piece. It's kind of, let me find it. Yeah, the origin is right there, that like purple dot. That's what the origin is. You want to make sure that the origin's at the center of the piece. So to do that, we're going to change this 2-point rectangle into a center rectangle. I'm going to go down here at the tree and press Control and then press these two and then right click, delete. Alright, we're back. Had a bit of a allergy attack there, but we're back. Everything's deleted, and now we're going to do it with the center rectangle. So, same thing, press Create Sketch, make sure you're on the top plane, press this one, and then if you already pinned it, it will be here. If not, you have to go under Create, and then hover, and then press the center rectangle. Then you want to click the origin, and then move it out, and you'll see that it bases it off the center. So that's why it's a center rectangle. We're going to press 2 by 2 with our keyboard and then enter. If at any time you mess up the number, here you can either press Control Z and just delete it and redo it, or you could just double click on these values to change it. Like say you clicked too early and it was 1.2 and it looks like that. You just double click and press 2 and then enter, and then there you go. No need to delete anything. So now we're going to extrude this out. Press 2. And you'll see that the origin is at the center of this piece, which is exactly what we want. Now, say we want to put a hole in this. We're going to create, actually, there's 2 different ways to do it. I guess I'll do both. But yeah, I guess. Alright, we're just going to put a hole in the center of this. So to do that, we're going to edit our sketch. It's a good habit to learn how to edit instead of just deleting things completely and starting over. Which that's pretty good at first because you'll be faster, but editing's the way to go. So we're going to double click down here on sketch. Yours will probably be 1 or 2. Like the number that it says, mine's 8 because I've done this so many times already. But we're going to press on this circle here, go in the middle, and then, I don't know, 1 inches. 1 inch, geez. Press that, and then there we go. You'll see that it's like this. If we press Finish Sketch, you'll notice that yours might already have the hole in it, and that would be great. But it doesn't for me. So to change that, we're going to double click on Extrude, and you'll see that it actually extruded out the center piece, just making that hole useless because it's filled in. So we're going to click on it to deselect it. You'll know you have it selected because it'll be a lighter blue than the other color here. So we're just going to click that. There we go. We have our hole in the piece. Now, what if we wanted a hole from here, there? So we wanted holes going on each side of this. We had a 1 inch hole. The way to do that is to create a sketch based off this part of the cube. Instead of going off these normal 3 planes, we're going to select what face we want to work off. So again, make sure create sketch is selected. Jeez. And then click on the face we want to work with. It doesn't matter what one you choose, it just has to have one that doesn't have a hole in it already. We're going to click there. And you can see that the origin's down here. That's fine. It just means that we have to use the sketch dimension tool to make sure this is in the center. So I'm just going to make a circle wherever. Make sure it's 1 inch. And then I'm going to go over here to sketch dimension. Click it once. This allows you to define the distance in between things. It also allows you to change how big something is. Like if this dimension was deleted, for instance, and we could drag it to make it as big as possible, the sketch dimension constrains that to 1 inch. So there we go. It also lets us put this in the center of the piece by just doing math. The center of this piece would be at the coordinate 0, 1. Okay, so we're just going to click anywhere on the circle. It doesn't matter. You can even click in the center. It doesn't matter. Everything's going to be based off this point anyway. And then click it once, then click on this edge, drag it out, and you'll see this number, or a number similar to that, just something that has those 2 arrows going between it. If you don't see that, it means you misclicked, so just press escape, and then try it again, carefully looking at what I'm doing. And then click there, and we're going to make 1 inch. And we're going to do the same thing, but to the top. There we go. Now it's in the center of the piece. You know you did it right if you see these same numbers and everything's black. When things are black, it's fully defined. That's what you want. So now we're going to go over to solid, punch this hole out. And you see if we drag it this way, it makes some sort of post looking thing. But if we instead drag it the other way, it'll cut. If you don't want to drag it, you can put in the negative number or press cut, but I mean, dragging's totally fine. I've been doing this for a few years. No problem doing it that way. Then we're going to press OK, and you can see we're almost done. To do the last one, we're just going to do the same thing that we did on that side to the top. Actually, it's not on the top. Let me orient this correctly. So this was our original one that we did. This was the one we just did. Now we need to rotate it 90 degrees and do it here. So we're going to do that real quick. Okay, that was odd. I don't know why it went there. If that at all happens to you, just exit and then delete it by pressing delete on the keyboard, not backspace. Won't do anything, or you can right click and delete. But we're just going to create a sketch here. Jeez, come on. And then base it off this face. Again, just putting the circle wherever we want. My computer is not liking this. I'm not sure why. It does this all the time. And we're just going to define it in the center of the piece again by clicking what we want, the center, and then here, this edge, and then 1. And then there we go. The hole is in the center of the piece. And again, I just pressed extrude, selected this, and pull it out. And there we go. We now have a hole everywhere. That does it for this tutorial for how to do things basically. At this point, I mean, you could probably mess around with it. I gave you enough to sort of get started. It's really hard to think of what an amateur could do. So when I was learning this, I found like a movie prop that was super simple. I did a battering. I've actually got one. When I started out freshman year, I just made random movie props. So here's a battering. It's pretty big, as you can see. I modeled it huge, but I don't know if the detail's too great on the camera, but you can see all the lines and etches and all the curves. That I did after learning the software for about 35 minutes. It's just, the more you mess around with it, the easier this will be. But if you want the bare minimum and just want to go with the class, it's fine too. I guess I could help you out, but yeah, if you want to make something and I get this printer working, I'll print it out for you. We're done here.